is demo2. And here you will have the following files. First, I will need the same access key and secret key. So I'm going to create again this terraform.tfrs and put my access and secret key in here. Then let me show you what is in those files. I have an instance.tf. This one is very similar to what I showed you in the theory, still a little bit different. First, we're going to send our AWS key pair to Amazon. So this is the public key, and I use this variable here. So this is going to load the contents of a file, and this path is going to be coming from this variable. So let's have a look at vars.tf, and vars.tf says that I have my key as a private key and my key pub as a public key. I also have an instance username defined, which is going to be Ubuntu. So let's have a look again. Path to public key. This is then referring to my key here. My key is going to be named my key in AWS. Then I have two provisioners. First, a file provisioner, then a remote access provisioner. The file provisioner is going to upload script.sh to /temp script.sh. I'm not going to upload it to /opt because if I'm going to use the Ubuntu user doesn't have access to /opt. You can upload it to /opt, but then you have to use the root user. Remote-exec is then going to change the permission and then going to execute it. I'm going to execute it with sudo, which means this script will be executed as root. The connection, the user is going to be Ubuntu. This comes from the variable instance username, which is Ubuntu, and the private key is the contents of the file path to private key, which is my key. I still have to create those files, which is pretty easy with a tool called SSH keygen. SSH keygen SSH keygen minus f my key is going to generate this key for us. I'm not going to set a passphrase, I didn't fill anything out here, and this created my key and my key pub. So you can do that for yourself. If you're not using the Vagrant box, you can use puttygen, which is another tool to create private and public keys that are SSH compatible. If you have a Mac, then you also have the SSH keygen tool in your console. There's still one thing that we need to do. This connection is using SSH, and by default, if we use this AMI, this instance type, and this key name, we're not specifying a security group. I'm going to explain security groups later on in the course, but we still need to open SSH. You can open access to SSH to this instance using security groups. So I'm just going to show you how to do that manually. Later on, we will do that also in Terraform. So let's go to our AWS console. Select your correct region. I selected Oregon just to show you how an empty region looks like, because my EU West one has already lots of security groups in there. You go to VPC under networking. And here you will see that you already have one VPC and 3 subnets, and you have one security group. So if I click on this security group, it's a default security group. What I want to do is I want to change the inbound rules. So a security group is just like a firewall. What I want to do is I want to allow access from my IP address to this instance. And this instance will be using this default security group. So I'm going to click edit. I'm going to add another rule. I'm going to say all TCP traffic. And then I need to know my IP address. You can use a website like whatsmyip.org. You copy paste this, which is my IP address. You paste this here, /32, because it's only one address. You always have to specify a range. So this is one address, and you click save. So this rule will allow this source IP address, which is me, to access all ports over TCP. So let's launch this instance now. I can do that by Terraform apply. So you see here, it's first going to create this key. This is the public key that I created. And then it's going to launch this instance using my key as a key name. First, it's going to create the instance, then it will provision this script, and then it's going to execute the script. So you can see here provisioning with file. So now it's going to try to connect through SSH. I just paused the video for a second because it took some time. This is the end. Apply complete, 2 resources added, and you see it executes the script. I didn't show you yet what's in the script, so let me show you that first. In this script, we just have a few lines, apt-get update and apt-get install nginx. So if I scroll up, the file was copied, and then remote-exec connected to this host, user Ubuntu, with the private key, and then it executes the script. First run apt-get update, then here you can see it is starting to install nginx. Then it installed nginx. So if I copy paste this IP address, I should be able to go to this IP address in a browser, and I see welcome to nginx. So nginx is installed. This is a web server, but you can provision any software that you want using a script, or in that script you can use something like Puppet, or there are lots of other mechanisms to provision. This is the most easy and a very common one, using a shell script. Later in this course we'll cover off some other ones.